Good morning. I am on my way to the gym right now. It is a beautiful day in Texas. And today I wanted to talk about people pleasing and perfectionism and basically what stepping into another level of authenticity looks like for me in this season. Authenticity has been a thing that has been a theme for me for the last few years, really. And I feel like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the saying that people say that healing and growth is like a spiral staircase. So I guess they say you come around to the same spot again, but from a different level and a different perspective, as you go around the spiral staircase. And here we are again. I thought I was a fully recovered people pleaser and perfectionist. And yeah, it has come back up again as I'm stepping into this new season and era of my life. And I realized that the antidote for it in this season is, well, a couple of them. One is to own my decisions. And by that, I mean, one, on the front side, owning my autonomy to make decisions about my life. And then two, as I'm making those decisions, to own that decision no matter what the outcome may be. So, for example, someone who serves as a business mentor to me said to a class of us one day, listen, I'm showing you how to do this thing. If you decided to do it another way and you fail, that's on you. Don't come back to me because you didn't do it my way, essentially. Well, the temptation can be, well, dang, I guess I better do it that way because otherwise, if I fail, I'm out here by myself. However, the authentic thing would be to do it the way that actually makes sense to you and own that decision, whether you do it their way or do it another way, to own that decision and be okay with it making, bringing you to a win or bringing you to a loss. Because then in the end, you can say, hey, that's the decision I made. I'm okay with that. And if it didn't work, then we're just going to pivot and do something different. Not owning that decision would be, saying, well, dang, I guess they have power over my life and over my business and over the things I do. Guess I better listen to them because otherwise I'm just out here and I'm stuck. And I feel like that is an example of something that I've navigated in so many other ways and areas of my life, even without somebody giving that type of ultimatum, where I felt like either I'm doomed to do it the way that it's always been taught, that it's always been shown, or either I'm going to fail, or if I fail, there will be no one there to support me because I didn't do it the way that everyone else expects. And I'm in this season of life where I really got to, I almost have to. I just don't even have any more bandwidth not to give myself the opportunity to try things in the way that my gut and my heart have been leading me to do them. And so in order to do that, it really requires me to say, hey, I'm going to do it this way. And if I fail, I own that and I'll eat it and we'll pivot. And if I win, I get to own that and celebrate it and keep it moving, but really taking autonomy of my life and just ownership of my decisions, essentially. So that's one of the main things that has been important for me. Another thing is something that Patrice Washington talks about all of the time, which has been very profound for me. And that is the willingness to lose. And that one, listen, has sat with me for a good minute, but it makes so much sense. And she always says how, the willingness to lose does not necessarily mean that you want to lose, nor that you actually will lose. But in order to give yourself the freedom to be authentic in a moment, you have to be willing to lose. And by lose, it could mean lose approval. It could mean, like I was talking about in business, to do it your way and to bet on yourself, you have to be willing to say, hey, if I do it this way and it doesn't work, I'm willing to lose if it means giving myself the opportunity to try. And so that willingness to lose has become so key for me when I am in a wrestle with myself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, as I'm trying to go forth and do something or do something a certain way. That willingness to lose says, hey, what do you feel led to do right now? okay, sit with it, make sure that's clear and that's really what, what you feel that you should move forward with. And once you're there, then you have to say, hey, I release my attachment to the outcome at this moment. I'm willing for it to go either way so that I can honor my heart, my spirit, my soul, my gut in this moment. Whatever I feel like God is leading me to do in this moment, I'm willing to lose to go ahead and be in alignment in this moment. Knowing also that, something I've talked about previously, there is a such thing as failure on a micro level, but in general, all failure means is that you have an opportunity to pivot and do it a different way. So, ultimately, if I do lose in this situation, then I get to pivot and do it a different way. If I lose a relationship because I was authentic, then that means that was not an aligned relationship with the true essence of who I am, and that there are other people, my tribe is out there that will align with who I really am or where I really am, and who will be able to, embrace the full spectrum of myself and my journey, etc. If I happen to lose an opportunity, and I put quotes because I still don't necessarily see it as a loss, but if authenticity, ends up costing me an opportunity, then I have to be okay with that too, because at the end of the day, I have learned through action that to lose something when you were not in alignment with yourself hurts so much more than losing something when you're like, hey, this is just who I am, where I am, and I really felt like this was alignment for me. I'm a lot more okay with that than when I try to people please or do it the way that's been spoken to me, or do it in the way that I think will get me the outcome that I want, and then it still doesn't end up working out. Like, I'm like, well, dang, I might as well have just been authentic. So I think, I am walking out the journey of giving myself that freedom to show up in the ways that feel like alignment to me, both with who I am, where I am, the vision I have for my life, what I feel like God is leading me to do, etc. And how does this connect to people pleasing? I feel like there's a level of people pleasing where you stop saying yes to everything and all of that. I feel like, yeah, I had done great on that part. But then there's a level of getting out of the inclination to do things for the sake of approval and silent approval. This is not even necessarily face to face. Someone is actually telling you or asking you anything. This is like based on what you think others expect, based on what have been the norms, based on whatever else is not literally tangible in the moment, but like sits in the back of your head. I think Brene Brown calls it the arena, the people that are essentially watching your life, etc. That level of people pleasing is what I am untangling right now. Is okay, if I didn't care what, I won't say if I didn't care what anyone thought, if I was not governing this decision through the lens of like other people's understanding or approval, what would I want to do? What would I feel driven to do in this moment? And I feel like that's even more challenging than I'm going to stop saying yes to everyone. I feel like you have to go through that phase to get to this one, but now it's like, oh snap, this goes back to owning your decisions. Now it's like, oh snap, I really, not only have to, but I get to own my decisions. But when you've kind of had that, someone else deciding for you in a way for so long, it's a transition. And I won't lie, when I decided to go ahead and release that, I flatlined for a minute. Like my ambition and my drive, it flatlined for a minute, because when I was no longer in survival mode, that's separate, and then now no longer working based off of what people expect and being driven by, essentially approval, and not on a tangible level, just based on the doing the norms. If you're a realtor, this is how realtors do. This is what's acceptable as a realtor. You do it that way. If you're a business owner, this is what business owners do. This is how it works. You do it that way. When I was like, hey, I am going to check in with myself and decide to do it that way, listen, I died for a minute. I'm not even gonna lie. And my fuel, it went to zero. The car was on E for a minute. And I recognized that it was only because it was time for a new fuel source. It was time for authenticity and true vision and true autonomy to be the fuel for my life. And that is the journey I'm on. I'm not even gonna pretend like, oh, I've made it, we finally here. That is literally a day-by-day journey that I'm on, where I am checking in with myself for every decision and going through the checklist that I already said about, owning the decision, about being willing to lose, and about being willing to say, hey, I'm willing to do it based off my way and not based off the way I think other people will approve, or I think will be fit in with the norms, or any of that. And I feel like that's the cost of authenticity. The benefit will be living a beautiful and authentic life on another level. Like, there has been a level of that I have, been able to live and enjoy. And I think another benefit of that is having even deeper and more fruitful relationships, because looking back, I didn't necessarily realize it, but when you're in people pleasing, your relationships are kind of superficial. Like, people are connected to a version of you that technically doesn't exist. And when that's your whole life, you kind of think that's you. Let me speak for myself. When it was my whole life, I kind of thought that a lot of those things were me. But giving myself the freedom to step back from that and check in with myself and quiet the noise and all of that, I'm like, okay, some of that has to be released. And so it gives space for you to connect more deeply with people and authentically with people, and for you to find your true tribe. What happens is, when you step into authenticity, when you've been operating a different way, you may lose some relationships. And that goes back to that willingness to lose. If you've been connected to me in a people-pleasing way, then when I step into a level of authenticity, maybe you don't align with the true me. And that's something I have to be okay with, and it's something that, it may hurt, it may be disappointing, but it's not even something that I feel like I should be mad at, because essentially that was the me that you knew, that's the one you connected with. And if I choose to do something different, you also have the autonomy to choose to go a different direction. And so that may happen. Again, opportunities may no longer be aligned, and that's okay too, because there will be other ones that are aligned with the true, And then there's a level of responsibility that comes with authenticity. And again, that goes back to the owning your decisions. The level of responsibility means that you can't say, well, such and such told me to, or they expected me to, or this was the norm, or this is what I've been taught. When you get to own your decisions, you're making the decisions for your life, and that's a level of responsibility you take on, which is freedom. And also, it's a weight that you take back for your own life. But I feel like it comes with so much more levity. So, the weight is worth it. So I think that's all I have to say about that today. I'm sure this is something that we'll talk about a lot more, because yeah. And how does perfectionism fit in this? I feel like, that willingness to lose and willingness to show up authentically also means, like, when I let go of perfectionism, I get to check in with myself a little bit more freely, rather than checking in with the most polished version of what I think it should look like. And so, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that more in the future, but I'm going to finish my walk. I'm almost at the gym now, and going to get this good workout in. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. I will talk to you soon. Peace out.